Hi everyone, my name is Richard Santoro and I welcome you to Third and Zen, the YouTube channel where every week I'm sharing a spiritual message to nourish ourselves, heart, mind, body, and soul. First, as always, I really want to thank you for stopping by the channel, checking out today's video. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying your autumn season here. I hope you're taking the time to care for yourself. And again, thanks for being here. If you like liking, subscribing, sharing, that's really appreciated. But either way, I'm glad you're here, and I hope that you find today's video beneficial, nourishing for your soul. So let's all take a nice deep breath. Very blessed to find myself out here on a beautiful day. Feeling all right, feeling good, I should say. And I hope wherever you are, you're feeling the same. I hope you're feeling at peace, at joy. I hope you're feeling present as best as we can be. And if you're not feeling those things, that's okay. Again, I hope this helps. Even just taking this moment to breathe, to stop, to just be. Hopefully we can acknowledge, hopefully you can acknowledge with gratitude towards yourself the fact that, hey, good job for caring for yourself to just stop. It's good that we did that. It's good that you did that. It's good that I did that. So just breathe for a moment. And let's get started with today's message, shall we? So, some time ago, I forget when, because it was an older message that I had done at church and then I shared on this channel, shared a message called Radical Ideas. And in that message, it was saying how, we should stop having lawns. Lawns are, there's a lot of negatives. Lawns, like front lawns, back lawns, grass, all that. And, I made a larger message about it. I'll post the link here. But in the end, it was like, there's something about maintaining lawns that are just not best for so many reasons, and there's better ideas, there's radical ideas. Oh, see what I did there? That was unintentional. Pardon me, that was unintentional. Now, it turns out that I'm not the only one that feels this way, because the idea of not having a traditional manicured yard and all of it is becoming a thing. For one, I saw a friend on social media, someone I grew up with, their home, they dug everything up in their yard. They hired, people that knew what they were doing, dug everything up and are going to let nature take over. And I thought that was awesome because it did. It connected to something that I was moved passionately about. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, so this is real life. And again, I'm not saying it's because of my message and people didn't hear my message, but I just thought it was cool. Sometimes we're all thinking similar things. And when we see solutions in action, pardon me, it's something we're grateful for. We rejoice over. Now, furthermore, and this is what I really want to talk about, I watched a news piece and saw that it's even more of a thing. And that's what I want to talk about. It's called rewilding. Rewilding, and it's a thing, and I want to talk about it, and then I want to talk about it in a more spiritual sense. So rewilding, what this is, if you're not familiar with it, it's fascinating, it's fantastic. It's a concept of land management where you sort of hand your land over back to nature, back to the wild. You stop plowing if it's a farm. You stop mowing. You stop taming nature, and you just let it be. You just let it be. You let nature and wilderness, the natural indigenous wilderness, return to it. And it's amazing. Now, this piece that I watched on it, just a few notes that I want to hit on it, and then we'll move on to the more spiritual fruit for us. They talked about how quickly nature bounces back once they started this process. And the news piece I watched this on was an estate in Britain, like a Downton Abbey type of estate that this couple had inherited, and this huge estate. And it's like, how do we manage and maintain all this? How do we support all this financially? How do we do this? And like about 20 years ago or so, maybe a little more, my math is fuzzy, the timeline chronology is fuzzy, but they started doing this. They turned to this with the help of people that knew what they were doing. And again, they said they were amazed at how quickly nature returns and how the process starts. And they had amazing success with it, which I'm going to talk about. they talked about how they showed a video of this stork, like the storks that bring the babies, the bird, and they said that this stork, this particular bird, had not been in England since 1416, which is the year before the Battle of Agincourt, which is amazing. That's amazing that just through this process, this nature returned. Now, here's what I want to note also. What they said is, to start this process, they did reintroduce some larger animals into the area, into this habitat, into this landscape. Cattle, pigs, horse, deer. They reintroduced these larger animals in it because these animals do certain things. They root around in the ground. They trample things, they debark trees, which sounds like you're making a mess, but no, this is all good stuff for nature. It's good stuff for nature. And what these larger animals would do through the process of just living naturally is they're spreading seeds from one area to the other, either through their hoofs or their trampling, or even what they are eating and digesting and then defecating. And that just starts to build up the ecosystem, starts to do, and it starts to do wonderful things. Sorry, I trailed off in that sentence. I do that sometimes. And they talked about the success of all of this and how it just started to flourish, and the byproducts of all this, of the success to this landscape, this habitat, this ecosystem, that the animals are so much healthier, and they're thriving, and the landscape overall and this ecosystem is so much healthier. And they talked about how it doesn't just benefit this large estate and the grounds of these individuals, but their neighbors and the surrounding area, because the neighbors are provided now with cleaner drinking water based on what the animals are doing, and more insects, safer insects. The insects are in a safer habitat, so there's more and they're plentiful, and it's able to spread, for such valuable pollination. And having this flourishing large natural habitats, they said, works as a wonderful buffer for areas for extreme weather events. And they talked about how, I'm just reading notes, I don't want to forget, how it wasn't just the animals and the land and the landscape and the neighbors themselves, but the individuals that own this estate are benefiting from it too, because where they, for generations upon generations, this estate was sustained by farming, by working the land. Now, by letting it simply be, by giving it back to nature and letting it be its natural wilderness, it's now a booming business. They're netting more money as an actual wilderness than they ever did as a farm. Wilderness from ecotourism, people coming to visit. They even, environmentally safe and friendly glamping and camping. So they're doing pretty well for nature and for the wilderness. There was a moment where the reporter is with the one of the owners, the wife that owns this estate, and they see this beautiful red deer, big, beautiful, huge, robust antlers, and the reporter says, "I've never seen anything like that. I didn't know red deer could be like that with those antlers." And this is what the woman said. She says, "Aren't they amazing? Let me start that quote over. She says, "Aren't they amazing? To us, they, with the huge antlers, look really outlandish on a red deer. But that is probably what they would naturally grow to if they were allowed to live in their most optimal kind of habitat." And she goes on to say, "If you put these animals back into a landscape, they can create habitats again." Let me read those two quotes again, because this is the whole thing struck me from start to finish. But this is sort of, let me just share the quotes again. She says, "Aren't they amazing? To us, these red deer with the huge antlers look really outlandish. These antlers look really outlandish on a red deer. But that is probably what they would naturally grow to if they were allowed to live in their most optimal kind of habitat." And again, the second quote, if you put these animals back into a natural landscape, into a natural wilderness, into their natural habitat, they can create habitats again. Is there a better metaphor for living and spreading the gospel than that? I mean, think about it for a moment. Just letting human beings, individuals, just letting folks be the best versions of themselves in their most natural and unoppressive, safe, free, loving environment where they can naturally spread life-giving seeds by simply being the best versions of themselves, all because of being in a natural, safe, where they should be type of environment. We can do that, can't we? Can't we do that? Can't we do that, letting people live as their best and most natural selves in a loving, free, non-oppressive, non-repressive, safe environment, letting people be the best and most natural versions of themselves? Letting people be the best and most natural versions of themselves, the best versions of themselves, the most unoppressed versions of themselves. Take that and combine that with a naturally unoppressive, non-invasive, and safe environment, and the best things happen to the surroundings, to the society, to the ecosystem, to all of it. Can't we take a lesson from rewilding and how just letting be benefits everything and everyone? Letting people be the best versions of themselves with safety and love. You know, Jesus didn't make people all conform to one cookie cutter mold. He didn't do that. Please, when we read the Gospels, when we study them, when we sift them, when we absorb them, when we really take them to heart and look at them, as just read them front to back, open-hearted, open-minded, we see that Jesus didn't do that. He didn't say, you must be like this, and you must be like this, and everybody must be like this. You know, he let Peter be Peter. He let Peter be his best version of himself. As Peter, he didn't make Peter be Thomas, and he didn't make Thomas be Peter, and he didn't force Mary Magdalene to be like Martha, and everybody was their own individual, wonderful mosaic tapestry of beautiful things, of individuality, of their gifts, their strengths, their weaknesses, all of it. And Jesus just said, flourish. Be the best version of yourself. Yes, I'm adding my words to a quote, but you get the thematic point. You know, there's a moment in Scripture where somebody does go to Jesus, goes directly to Jesus and asks him very specifically, what must I do to enter the kingdom of heaven? And this story is told in the 3 synoptic gospels. And I'm sorry, I'll put the chapters and verses down below, but it's told differently in each of the synoptic gospels. Each is telling their own theological and thematic story throughout the gospels, so they're slightly tweaked. But in one of the gospels, when this man asked Jesus, what is it that I can do? What must I do to enter the kingdom of heaven? What must I do to be better? And Jesus says, you must do A, B, and C. You must go, and this was a rich man, the passage tells us, you must go and sell your stuff and give it to the poor. And it's explained and it's inferred and it's implied in that passage that's because that man walks away. And it says because he loved his money. And I'm paraphrasing poorly and I apologize, but that's the theme of the story. That's what's being conveyed. And that's why Jesus said that to that man. Hey, what must I do better? Well, how must I change? Well, what you, sir, need to do is you need to go sell your stuff. Unspokenly, why? Because you're a little too attached to your stuff. You love it too much. Maybe you're a little too greedy and you're not caring and loving your neighbor. And I'm, again, adding this based on the contextual information that's there. Now, does that mean that everybody needs to go sell their stuff and give it to the poor? No. There are some people that, that are loving their neighbor and living the best versions of their lives and all of it. That doesn't mean that that's the universal message for everyone. Go sell all your stuff and give everything. No. Jesus was helping that person be the best version of themselves, and that's what he did consistently throughout. Now, are there universal truths, golden rule, love your neighbor, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul? Yes, there are, and that's fair, and I'm not trying to take that away, but what I'm getting back to is what we often try to do in our society as individuals who seek to control so much, so many things. We try to control people, even if we don't really know we're doing it, even if we think we have their best interest at heart. We try so hard to say, you need to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That's not to say we're not to care and offer wise advice or counsel or course correction if needed, but we try too hard to control, and we don't accept that everybody is different. And when we give a safe, loving, natural environment to allow individuals to be the best versions of themselves, they flourish, the surroundings flourish, and by proxy, we can flourish as well. And that was sort of how Jesus, proceeded as well, letting people be the best versions of themselves, the best gifts that God created them as. So maybe it would benefit us to also look at the world around us similarly, and to look at individuals similarly. People are allowed to be different than we are. And people are allowed to not fit into a societal, religious, Christian mold that we seem to think that everybody needs to fit into. It's not up to us. We don't control nature. That's up to God. So my encouragement for us today is maybe we can encourage a little bit of rewilding in the world around us and let nature take over and let people be in safe, loving environments where they can be their best natural versions of themselves. Because that's the beautiful thing to do, isn't it? Thanks be to God. Amen. All right, everybody. Again, thanks for being here. Thanks for stopping by the channel. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great day. And I wish you nothing but peace and love and fellowship with God on your journey. Have a great one. I love you all. Ciao, ciao.